Hello, friends, fellow gamers, I am That Zero, and today we are back to chat on some more Last Cloudia. And on the menu for today, we are looking at a very specific unit and a backup unit that can be utilized heavily in order to farm magic tomes. Now, let's take a look. What am I actually looking at here? So, magic tomes. These are needed in order to make the special grimoires that actually unlock your 5-star enhancement paths. Okay, so once you get a unit to 5 stars, you're going to have to be able to get these things in order to actually unlock them, and it can be kind of expensive. So taking a look right here on our Phantom Thief Robin, if we wanted to unlock the ability to even upgrade this node, we have to use one of these blue water grimoires. Okay, so how do we actually get those blue water grimoires? Under the Materials Alchemy tab, we have all of these tomes right here at the top. They take one of the big clusters, they take one of these basic yellow tomes, skill book, which you should have an infinite supply of if you're farming Imperial Guard Commander 3, and then it takes these magic tomes, which you will not have an infinite supply of, because they're kind of limited on where to get them. So where you can get them, I mean, there's lots of missions you can technically get them, but there's one main place that's really good, and that is right here, White Laboratory. Now, this is pretty well known to many people. If you've ever asked in the Reddit or Discord or whatever, people will always say, go to White Laboratory. And the reason for that is because there's only 2 enemies here. 2 enemies. They're very, very weak, so difficulty doesn't really matter. These are the only things that drop from here. They're a very tiny chance. It's like a 1 or 2% chance to actually drop from the actual boss. But there are 2 units here. There is Lancevale, a knight. He drops the skill book. There is also Lily. Lily is a mage. She drops the magic tomes. So they have a base kind of weak drop chance. So just getting them by killing them, maybe with a farming team like what you would use for Imperial Guard Commander 3, not really that viable. It's not going to give you very much. You could run it with Thief Bangle and then have a 10% chance per kill to be able to get things. It's still not going to be very good. So what people instead say is, you know what, suck it up, just use some time and come in here and use Beast Hunter. You use Beast Hunter at level 10, it's just going to give you that 100% drop chance, and then you go and kill everyone, and then at the end, you're guaranteed going to have 1 skill book, 1 magic tome. Like I said before, we don't really need the skill books at all, because we should have an infinite supply. So I asked myself, what can we do to not have to manually do this stage and be able to get a bunch of magic tomes? Well, I figured it out. So you can see here, 100% chance, we will always get this with Beast Hunter. You will. If you manual it, you can do this. So if you just have time, you want to sit here, go through this menu manually, you can do that. But I have something better. This strategy utilizes one of 2 units, one of which it's much easier to build and works more effectively. But not everyone wants to build everyone, and not everybody has access to everything, so we will get into it. Alright, so first up to the plate is Master Thief Robin. Now, he's always been an okay unit, but not really that great. He's been thoroughly outshined by Yashimaru and Phantom Thief Robin, and they're kind of the main ones. I mean, you could also use somebody like Chrome. I would say, before what I'm about to show you, Chrome is probably the best to farm this stage because he basically gets that 30% chance at the Beast Hunter effect. You'll at least have a decent amount between that as well as Thief Bangle. He could do pretty good, but not everybody. In fact, most people will not have Chrome. Most people probably have a Master Thief Robin laying around because, well, he's one of those dead pulls that everybody's mad to get. But he's actually got kind of a purpose now. So I'm going to tell you the bare minimum of what you need. My build I have here is a min-maxed one just for fun, where he's hitting damage cap of his 4k on his hit, because it's fun, so I did it. So I maximized damage. But I will tell you, the bare minimum you need for this is you need to have Robin at 5-star enhanced in order to get his steal skill up to level 5. And then the only other prerequisite is you need access to skill charge 2. Robin is unique, as I have said in the past, in the sense that when he has skill charge 2 only, just that, he automatically gets 1 charge of his S2, which is great. His S2 targets an enemy and then instantly dashes to them and deals backstab damage, and ends up on the back side of them. It is just like Kohaku's S1, except technically a little bit slower, but you get the point. So, with his steal getting upgraded, it did 2 things. Before, it was a 15% chance to steal. Now, without the data mined information, I don't know exactly what it is, but with my anecdotal testing, and I have tested this for a few hours between him, and I will also show you a version with Yashimaru, I've concluded that his chance to steal is probably around 25%. This is very, very nice compared to the 15%. And in addition to it getting bumped up to there, the level 4 also makes it so that you have a chance of doing this when you do backstab damage, which means when he uses his S2, you get 2 chances at 25% of getting a proc of a steal. Okay, that in and of itself is valuable. So, how do we actually leverage that for this particular stage? So now let's go ahead and see what a run actually looks like with Master Thief Robin. Now, when this loads in, what you're going to see is Roy and other units are just going to do whatever they want, probably killing Lancevale instantly. And Robin in the background is going to dash straight to Lily and murder her face and have roughly a 50-50 chance of giving us a magic tome. With the amount of time it takes between stages, and the roughly 50%-ish chance that he has, I found myself getting anywhere from 40 to 45 magic tomes per hour, which is really good, at least considering I'm putting in no effort except auto-running my phone. So you can see right there, magic tome, perfect. Looking good. All right, let's take a peek at what your boy is actually doing in this build. So you can see our stats. Pitiful. He's not a very strong unit in general, and we're not really making him to be, a stat stick of any sort. But we have an 80 SC build, and an important thing to note is this can work with very, very minimal investment. As in, you can probably do it with 20 or 30 SC pretty easily. I put on more just because I can, and to make things flashy so that he can hit his, 40k damage cap just for lulz. So let's see what he's working with. First of all, equipment. Weapons, at a minimum, literally do not matter. I am choosing to run some high crit ability stuff, so I have plus 8%, plus 10%. And I'm also running a full crit package in his build, as you'll see in just a minute. All of that is literally just because I don't need these slots for anything, and it gives me a teeny tiny extra chance for Rabbit Labyrinth to proc. So what that does is all of your physical attacks, when they crit, have a small chance. It's like a 1 to 3% chance, somewhere in there, in order to drop an item. So if one of my other ways of proccing doesn't happen, this gives me an even tinier extra chance. We are also running Thief Bangle for that 10% chance on kill. So with his steal, we have a roughly 25% chance on backstab to steal, roughly 25% chance on kill to steal, another 10% chance on kill to steal, and then if we happen to crit, which we're running as much crit as we possibly can muster with this build, if we happen to crit as well, then that's an extra, adds maybe a 0.5% of chance. It's not much, but we're min-max in here, why not? But for you, all that I'd recommend is throw on Thief Bangle, because it will definitely help. If you don't have it though, he could literally be naked and this will work just fine, for real. And on to skills. Attack up 2, doesn't matter. Nothing else to put in there, so I put in a little bit of strength. Whatever. Crit ups, again, not necessary. It's literally just there for a tiny chance for Rabbit Labyrinth to do more. Sorcerer Slayer. This is super duper important. So you'll notice that Robin was actually in the second slot on that run. And the reason for that is that I have found the AI has a few different things that it does. I've talked about in past videos that the AI will determine whether it wants to use skills or magic depending on, one, its unit, but then most importantly, its actual skill allotment. So a unit that can be a little bit more hybridy or is focused towards being a bruiser or even a mage, you have to trick them into using the opposite by raising their opposing stat higher than the prior. So for instance, I'm currently running Ed as my auto farming mage. To do that though, I needed to tank his strength by turning all of his strength off, put a ton of int on him, and it was actually quite hard because his int is crazy low compared to his strength, which is by base really, really high. You have to get it much higher, maybe about 300 to 400 points higher than the opposing stat in order to get them to even have a chance at the AI using the thing that you want them to do. And it works the opposite way for mages. If they normally use magic, then to use skills, you have to boost up their strength really high. Cool. Some units like Roy are an exception because they're meant to do physical damage, so he'll probably be using skills even though his int is higher. In fact, I know he will because he's built that way. So their AI is tweaked a little bit, but usually you have a more definitive role, one or the other. Robin is a physical attacker by nature, so that stat doesn't really matter as much. One of the other factors that I found is targeting. Oftentimes, your AI will try to look for the most valid target for something it wants to do. Maybe it will want to do support magic or offensive magic or physical attacks based on the previous thing that I was mentioning. Robin wants to do physical attacks, so he will look for the most valid target. He is not that picky about who he actually attacks, so usually physical damage dealers will just want to look for someone that is closest to them. The AI will sometimes at least look around to see if there's a resistance going on, so it could look and see, hey, this person is weak to earth and I am an earth type. This one is resisting earth type. Okay, I will go over and attack the one that I am stronger against. But sometimes if it sees the one that's resistant first, it might just go for that. In some of my past builds, I would actually have to take my mage that's going to cast after 3,700 years and move it to a different slot so that it could be lined up with the one opposing mage that has innate minus earth resistance, and it would make my runs 10 times more consistent. At least back when I didn't have a means of nerfing their resistances at the start of battle. In this case, since he's not really looking for resistances, he's just looking for the path of least resistance, so putting him in slot 2 lines him up with Lily. So the first enemy, line of sight wise, he sees is Lily. So that has a little more priority than Lancevale. Even though Lancevale is further up in the map, and Lily's kind of back here, he still is going to be looking at her more. So just simply putting him in slot 2 gives him probably about a 60% chance to just simply attack her. But you will still have him attacking Lancevale sometimes just because he is still kind of close in proximity. But if you put on Sorcerer Slayer, the AI also wants to target based on Slayer. So in Arena, for example, you could use something like this where it's really good to just stack all the Slayers you possibly can, but maybe you know that you have somebody that's kind of tanky and you want them to be on top of their Sorcerers. You could have someone like Ruto running Sorcerer Slayer, even though he's not going to do damage, and it would make him more likely to go run over and target them, so that when they are trying to kill your Ruto, they have more forces on you, and then maybe your defense AI will be coming more likely to their sorcerers because everybody else is piled up on your tank or whoever it might be. So just know, sorcerers seem to come pretty solidly into play when it comes to AI, and in this case, it takes this like 60-ish% chance up to basically 100% chance. I have never had him attack Lancevale when I had him in slot 2 and Sorcerer Slayer on. So it is very important for this particular thing to work super consistently. Now, Pride Ordor, again, I'm just throwing out some extra stuff for damage. It doesn't really matter. Pose of Glory does not matter much. Okay, it doesn't matter at all, really. If your other units or a friend unit aren't strong enough to take out Lancevale very quickly, you'll want Robin to do something to try to keep your runs relatively quick. And if you have Pose for Honor, and then you'll also see I have Stock Skill 2. This makes it so that the overflow from Skill Charge 2 as well as Pose for Glory can get him pretty close to hitting another S2, in which case he could just use that on Lancevale afterwards. So it can just make your runs be like a consistent 3 or 4 seconds instead of, relying on your other units to do it for you. But I found it usually doesn't really matter much. You might have to actually tool with a little bit more to get it to do more, maybe using the Icy Guardian Sword or something of that nature in order to get a little bit of extra SCT. But I digress. Again, these things don't matter. Sorcerer Slayer, most important thing. Coming down here, again, hammer boost, hammer high boost. I'm running hammers, so I boosted my damage because I want to hit damage cap. Not necessary. Skill stock 2, also not necessary. I put it in there so that he could have an extra charge ready, potentially to kill Lancevale. Doesn't matter. Skill charge 2 is key. Sorcerer Slayer, skill charge 2. Only things you really need. So 12 SC? Yeah, 12 SC. Now, I'm also running your Demon-like Way for some extra stats, again, and crit stuff. Berserker, again, extra damage because I like hitting cap because it just looks fun. So yeah, this is pretty much it. Like I said, with this particular build and Robin, I have found to get roughly 40 to 45 tomes per hour, which is really, really solid. Far better than any other auto run team that I really know of. So when you can auto this stage instead of manually it and have like a 50% chance of getting a magic tome, maybe even a little bit more between Thief Bangle and, the 25% chances and then the small one from Rabbit Labyrinth, it's probably not much more than 50%. I don't know how to do all the fancy probability math. I know the 25, and the 10 doesn't equal a 60% chance to steal. I'm well aware that's not how it works, but it's probably like a 53.24689 whatever percent chance to do it, which I think pretty fucking good. And like I said, I found that I have about a 50% chance on average, usually leans a little bit higher, which is pretty great. So Robin, 4 things really. 4 things bare minimum to do. Well, 5 that I'd recommend. Enhance 5, Steel to level 4, Sorcerer Slayer, Skill Charge 2, and ideally Thief Bangle. That's it. That's all you need. All right, next we're going to take a look at a build for Yashimaru. Now, this is very, very similar to Robin, but there are a few little nuances that he has working for him, and just weird things that make it a little bit tougher to work with him, but it's really not. It's not that terrible. If you've been playing the game for a long time, you probably have enough things to make this work. First of all, we need to know how does Yash steal so that we can understand kind of his probability and how these things sort of work. So, Treasure Bind, chance to get an item for extra attacks from physical attacks, as well as defeating an enemy. That is a 20% chance. Extra attacks are pursuits, and that you only get from special effects such as anything that says regular attacks deal extra earth damage or something like that. And we don't care about that because he's not doing regular attacks. We don't want this to be that slow. If you, I mean, you could. This would probably be more consistent if you just make him run up, kill with autos, and then, you know, wipe, but it slows down the runs quite a bit, so if you want to do that and you're already doing it, then cool, do that. But we're trying to make this close to the Robin run so that we have relatively quick clears with a decent chance of actually getting our steals to happen. So he also has Shadow Clone, so his skills have a chance to deal extra dark attack. So that means that he has a chance, I don't know the exact percentage, but he has a chance of getting a pursuit attack, which then gives him a little bit of a chance to then get a thing. So a 20% chance if this other chance actually procs, which, you know, probably equates to like an extra 5 to 10% chance, maybe. I don't know how likely it is for Shadow Clone to actually proc, but Treasure Bind itself is 20% on each of these things. Let's take a look at what we're actually building on him. Gear, same exact thing as Robin. There is one exception, which I will talk about. Actually, I'll talk about it right now. So you could just forego the crit package and Rabbit Labyrinth because it doesn't do much anyway. Like, that's probably about the same benefit you're getting. Like, it's a worse benefit than what the pursuit attacks are going to be giving you. It's a very tiny percentage chance off of a tiny percentage chance to actually do anything. So it's not that great. And what you need to do, the reason Yash is trickier is Skill Charge 2 does not get you an actual charge for your S2. You need something extra as well. So what I'm actually doing is we're running Abandoned City of the Sea at level 1. At level 1, it's not going to use many of your souls, so it's totally fine to be using it. Now, at level 1, Abandoned City of the Sea gives you an extra 5% charge on all your skills at the beginning of the battle. So that plus Skill Charge 2 is enough to get him his skill charge. Alternatively, if you happen to have it, what you can do is you can forego Rabbit Labyrinth, and you could instead use the William Blake poems from the DMC collab. Now, that only gives you, I think, 3 seconds, and that actually puts you 1 second off from him having his S2. So that's a little bit sketch. I found sometimes the AI will just wait for a half second, it'll charge, and then it'll dash in, and the game plan works just fine. But sometimes the AI will be more snappy and responsive and say, there's an enemy, let's go regular attack it, and then he'll start running. And then as he's running, his skill 2 starts getting is charged up, but it doesn't interrupt what the AI is doing until he gets to his destination, does his regular attack, and then now your run's taken, you know, quite a bit longer. I mean, not a ton. It's not going to kill the run. So if that's what you have and you don't have Abandoned City of the Sea yet, that's something that you could do instead to make it work at least half of the time. On to his actual skills. So again, we're running some crit stuff just because, you know, Rabbit Labyrinth, why not? Not necessary, though, for this build at all. Again, Sorcerer Slayer, definitely key. He needs to target Lily. We put him in the second slot as well, same thing. Hammer Equip, that's just to get the extra crit, not necessary. Fast crit doesn't matter, Ordor doesn't matter. Pose of Glory is more important if you're running with things that cannot instantly kill, because what you can do is, you can see that I have Skill Charge 2, but I also have Skill Charge 3 on him. So, with Skill Charge 3 also active, between that and Abandoned City of the Sea, or the William Blake poems, if you also get a kill with Pose for Glory, giving you an extra 5 SC, gives you enough for a charge of his S3. So as soon as you kill Lily, it'll be charged, and then he'll instantly dash over and kill Lanceville as well. But, to go even further, sometimes he can have quicker clears with Robin, because we can put Reject on all of our units, and Allure on Yash. If we do this, there is a chance, you know, it's not guaranteed, but sometimes, I found maybe 30 to 50% of the time, Lanceville will start out targeting Yash. So what that does is when he sends his Shadow Clone to kill Lily, Lanceville will start to move up. If you're doing enough damage, that S2, when it's coming in, killing Lily, the rest of the animation could potentially kill Lanceville as well, meaning that it just instant S2 wipes the map. Perfect. I did try running on less damage, like the bare minimum amount to actually get a kill on either unit. My mentality was, okay, if I'm getting more hits for extra crits and extra chances at the physical attacks, creating pursuit attacks, which gives me extra treasure bind chances, maybe it will elevate my actual chances of making this happen and actually getting those procs. But when I actually did it and I ran it for an hour, I noticed 0 improvement. So I don't know if the physical attacks turning into pursuit attacks is a one-time trigger per skill, or if it is on hit, but it seems like maybe it's actually just on the skill. So you have X amount of chance when you use a skill that maybe all of those hits will get pursuit attacks and get converted. But I don't know. I'm just saying I didn't notice a big improvement, but what I did notice was that there was no way in hell that the latter half of the S2 animation could ever kill Lanceville. So I decided jacking up the damage so that sometimes the runs are instantly cleared with Yash alone was totally worth. So I'm boosting his damage. If you want to play with it, see if you could do something else to maybe get a little extra drops out of it. Feel free. That's up to you. We're then running dual wield. None of the rest of this really matters. Again, jacking up damage. I threw in Sharp Eyes, Berserker, because why not? Just jacking up the damage. Let's go ahead and see what one of these runs looks like. Alright, now we're going to run one with Yash here, with nobody that really does damage, so that we can actually show that he can come in and either instantly kill the wave on his own, or he can kill and then follow up with an S3 right away on Lanceville. So we're going to see him charging on Lily, and then come on down to Lanceville. So he teleports, and he only hit Lanceville with the tiny little bit of his edge damage, so he wasn't quite able to get the kill wrapped up, but came in with the S3 directly after to clutch it up. Alright, well, that is all I have got for you guys today. Hopefully you've learned a little bit about how AI kind of works, how some of these farming units work, and can kind of make a judgment for yourself of where you want to spend your time, resources, and if it is worth you catering the sort of idle gameplay towards having a resource of farming these magic tomes. Because me, I can't stand going in and beast hunting over and over and over 50 times, 100 times, whatever. And you need a lot of these. I think it's like 5 to 10 of these magic tomes per one of the grimoires you need to make. So this is absolutely great. I can just run this instead of IGC3 for a day, and after a day end up with like, I don't know, 200 magic tomes I think that I got from my first session of it. It was pretty great. So yeah, if you got any questions, feel free to put them down in the comments below, and if you want to come hang out and chat with me and some other cool people, join the Discord. I'll put it in the description as I normally do. For anybody that's excited, this Saturday we are actually starting our first episode of our own podcast. So the LC Pro podcast already exists. You can go see it over on Buddha Fish's channel, and it's really excellent. But me and a couple other creators, Jawline and That Nerd DK, are actually starting our own podcast. So that is going to be premiering at 8 p.m. Central this Saturday, and we're going to be following that schedule weekly, assuming we can keep up with it and make that whole thing work. So subscribe, and I'll be posting a reminder to that probably over on Reddit and Discord and all that, so you can set an alert. Get ready for it, because it's going to be great. We're going to be doing an introduction to what, the podcast is going to be all about. Have a few different talking points, maybe even do a Q&A. I'm not entirely sure how it's going to be structured quite yet, but it's going to be fun, and we're going to have a great time. So join us. So yeah, go forth and murder things for magic tomes and whatnot.